Most recently, from my perspective, I was talking about Huck from Millar and Albuquerque. So this one here, which is a fantastic read, highly recommended. Both the story and art are fantastic. One thing that I forgot to mention in that video is Huck was supposed to receive a sequel, and to this date still hasn't. I'm hoping someday. I secondarily hope that Albuquerque comes back, because Chrononauts did get a sequel and Murphy wasn't involved. It's still by Millar. I did not get that series, mostly because Millar wasn't involved, but also there's a weird publishing schedule where I think all 4 issues were put out in the same month or possibly the same week. I don't remember. And you had to pre-order based on a secret project. It was ultimately stupid. I figured if the series was any good, I'd hear about it, and no one talks about it ever. So this is a good book. I want to talk about this. Say it's a good book, and it is, but there's some problems, and I'll get there. So this is a time travel story. You've got these 2 guys, Danny and Quinn, and he's basically Reed Richards and Johnny Storm. He is the smart guy that invents time travel, and he is the womanizing party guy. So the book starts, this is literally page 2, so we start in Turkey, talking about 6,000 years before Stonehenge. They're opening up this thing, and they find a fully kitted out airplane. So, time travel appears to be real based on page 2. We then get an issue's worth of early testing, proof of concept before human trials. Quinn goes into the portal, and immediately things go wrong. We get a good amount of character development here, some backstory that will come into play later, but here is things going wrong. And so Danny winds up going into the portal to rescue his friend, and things go immediately wrong for him as well. He winds up here. So he's already been shot in the leg, I think. Yeah, as soon as he lands, he gets shot in the leg, and then another arrow winds up in his helmet. This is the end of issue 1. It's a great setup. It is a fun book overall. It's very entertaining. The art is fantastic. I have long said that I'm a fan of Murphy's art. This vehicle shows up again later. He draws, I think, everything really well. Clothing choices for characters, does not skimp on backgrounds at all. Vehicles are phenomenal. I love the character's hair too. Just a fan of this guy's work. I tentatively plan to do Tokyo Ghost and or Joe the Barbarian somewhat soon, because I am sort of on a Murphy kick at the moment, and I think I have run out of Millar. I do try to lump these things into some sort of theme, some sort of connective tissue between Saturday videos. I don't know if anyone realizes, but it's there. I try. After that initial first issue setup, we then have, this is a 4-issue series, by the way, so the next 3 issues are sort of an excuse once again for Sean Murphy to draw whatever he wants. So the 2 guys jump all through time. This is the cover to the 2nd issue, so you can already see things are not going, according to standard time travel rules. So Danny does meet up with his friend, and Corbin is his name. I keep calling him Quinn. Quinn's his last name. He's been in the past jumping through time for 4 years, and only, I think, at the time, 40 seconds back in the present have passed between when Danny jumped in the portal and Quinn. So obviously he has gone through a lot, and he is completely unaware. So we then have, like I said, an excuse to travel all through time. Here we are in 61. This is where he has been traveling. There's this mildly amusing but also disturbing scoreboard. I was going to give it a better name, but literally it says scoreboard. at the bottom there of women that Quinn has been getting together with throughout time. And then he has a collection of clothes over there for his various time travels. But Danny realizes that Quinn has been living it up for a couple of years, and Quinn tries to get Danny to enjoy himself. So they do that for a couple of issues, and now here's a jet versus a dinosaur. But the people back in the present are none too pleased with any of this. This guy here looks like a cross between, in this panel in particular, he looks a bit like Richard Nixon, but I think ordinarily he looks like Tommy Lee Jones. I don't know, he's fun. That's the security guy, he's very gruff, he's unhappy. So the present wants to send people back to stop these two idiots, but in their time travels they have pissed off some other people in their respective times as well. By issue 3, things are really unraveling. Issue 4 is trying to set things right, and that's really, for me, where the story falls apart. So Quinn, I'm just gonna spoil this part because there's no other way to talk about it in vague terms. If you want, you can skip forward to this timestamp to see a non-spoiler conclusion, but the end result is, it is, as I said, an entertaining but not great story. I think the heavy lifting is really done by Murphy in this book, not the writing, but let's get into the spoilers. So what happens is Quinn has a crisis of conscience, and Danny talks him into setting things right. He's like, well, we have these time travel devices. What if you just go back and do the things that you were supposed to do? Back in issue 1, you were talking about regretting. So he does that, and then they all come back to the present, and things are better than when they left. Except none of that makes any sense. So Quinn is already 4 years older than he should be, and then he spends additional time. So he spends time with his girlfriend and with his father. So those are the two big personal relationships that he was neglecting while in his professional pursuits. And then they wind up coming back to the present. As I said, things are better than when they left because he invested that time into his relationships. It's almost like a multiversity thing where the original timeline, Quinn is still obsessed with work and neglecting his personal relationships, but a future version of himself goes back to those periods in his life where he wished he had interacted with his family to spend that time, to put that time in. Only that guy's at least 4 years older. He should be even older because he's again traveling through time. None of it makes any sense. It's a nice story that you can accomplish because the artist can draw the characters at whatever age he wants, and they don't necessarily need to age. And but the reality just doesn't make any sense. Anyway, I enjoyed it. It's entertaining. As I said, it doesn't make a lick of sense, but it's really nice to look at. If you're curious, I do recommend checking it out. Just don't get your hopes set too high. And I have no idea about the sequel. If anyone has read the sequel, let me know. In this, they go to the past. In the sequel, I know that they wind up going to the future. And that's all that I know. That's all that I have to say about this. It's more entertaining than it is good, but it is really nice to look at.